Hello, historians. This is Mr. Carroll talking to you from my apartment. Hope you're doing well. I thought this would be a nice way to kind of reach out to you and still keep some of that the kind of fun personal attention that we've been building up over the year. So I'm going to try as needed. So mostly on a daily basis, maybe not every single day, but leave these little video updates for you that dive deeper into some of the content you'll be going through and stuff like that. Just a little reminder, everything we're going to be in is going to be from Schoology. So if you just go to courses in our class, you'll see we have all of our things here from the e-learning announcement to the e-learning folder. Make sure you read the e-learning announcement. It's very important to understand that as of now, nothing's changed as far as the AP board goes. So even though our instructions being a little more non-traditional, we're still keeping all of our kind of progression intact and our due dates intact. So that being said, make sure you're double checking the 2020 calendar for all of our inquisitive due dates. You should still have access to all of the online textbook and all the activities there. The calendar might shift slightly in terms of content. So in terms of like what I'm posting and talking about each day might alter slightly, but as far as the due dates themselves, those inquisitives, those are all locked in, ready to go. So let's talk about John F. Kennedy a little bit. So I'm going to actually make in these e-learning folders, you're going to see there's going to be kind of like sequential days. So like Kennedy is what we'll talk about today. So inside here, you can actually pull up the sources you'll be seeing from me as we kind of go along. When we had left off last week, we had been talking about, Cold War fears, Cold War reactions, domestically and foreign. And we had spent a good amount of time with Dwight D. Eisenhower, our president, who was very much, someone who warned of what he referred to as mutually assured destruction, right? Some of the impending Cold War fears. They even saw the rise of MAD, mutually assured destruction, and all those things. So in his aftermath, we see a different kind of president come in, John F. Kennedy. And I had an activity planned for you where we would actually go through a variety of quotes for a different kind of set of topics regarding him. So what we're going to do instead, though, is I'm going to actually kind of pillage a creation from some of my students from last year. So what I had challenged them to do was I gave them some quotes, and I had asked them to place each topic on change or continuity web. So basically, do you feel this topic represents a change in American history, that something that happened with John F. Kennedy was something brand new to the American story? Or do you think it was more continuity, something that was just a continuation of what we've already seen? And sometimes, as we can see, there's fluctuation. Some said something was a massive change, others say a minor change, things like that. Now, not every group might have something you agree with, but I'm still going to kind of base off what they said for some of their ideas here. So at first, we're going to look at this idea of Camelot. So I'm going to kind of read to you the quotes I have for Camelot, and then we're going to see where they placed it on change and continuity web and why. And I'll insert some thoughts. All right, so here's some quotes. We have this Camelot thing. All right, so we got one by Jacqueline Kennedy. It's Kennedy's wife, okay. She said, "Don't let it be forgotten that once there was a spot for one brief shining moment that was known as Camelot. There'll never be another Camelot again." All right, and we have another quote here, a Kennedy biographer, Michael Hogan. "They were people who inspired Americans to believe in themselves, to have faith in themselves, to believe that all problems were solvable. That was the image he projected that made Americans feel really good about themselves." You might have put two and two together. Camelot here is obviously a reference to King Arthur, right? The Knights of the Round Table, this group that kind of were noble, fought for what's good, what's just, and to kind of bestow that moniker onto the Kennedys, definitely then transfer those same ideas. This was a family worth looking up to. Some even said that the presentation was the best advertisement against communism in the Cold War. So would this idea present change or continuity? Well, we can find it right here. They said it was continuity. Let's see why this group argued that this was a continuation in America's history. They wrote JFK referred to as a second King Arthur. Okay. Oh, okay. So they had an interesting idea here. So they mentioned that Camelot was really kind of a ruse, a myth that, as they put it, his sexual misconduct kind of showed that Camelot was really more of just a screen, if you will. And they compared that, this is their evidence of continuity, is that Thomas Jefferson was constantly kind of idolized and shown, but he was actually someone who was a slave owner and also had his own affairs. I would have had that for more of the continuity. I think that's fair. I think those are fair points to make. I think there's plenty of other references you could make as far as maybe presidents being idolized. George Washington, for instance, Martha Washington, her name rings in the halls of history. Eleanor Roosevelt. Yeah, so I can buy that, though, that maybe this notion of Camelot is more continuity. If you want to argue the opposite, change, I mean, you could point to the age of Kennedy being a spectacularly young president, which really gave, maybe not from a political or policy standpoint, but from more of maybe a social standpoint, people something kind of different to believe in. Let's go next to media, though. Okay, so let's go see the media source, the media quotes I had bestowed upon them. And they are, right here. Okay, so I gave them 2 quotes about media. So it's kind of like television, newspapers, radio, all that fun stuff. And this is about the little photo here. The first televised debate, Kennedy on the left, Nixon on the right, and how television now has worked its way into American society. And thus, for really the first election, it's politically working its way into society. So let's see what the quote said about this televised debate between Kennedy and Nixon in 1960. Okay, the Museum of Broadcast Communication said, "The great debates marked television's grand entrance into presidential politics. They afforded the first real opportunity for voters to see their candidates in competition, and the visual contrast was dramatic." You could say that. Kennedy showed up. He had a nice pristine suit. He had makeup and hair done. Nixon on the right actually had a cold. He was blowing his nose. He seemed super at unease at the entire time. People were very kind of unnerved by him, to say the least, which was kind of surprising because he actually had the famous Chequers meeting earlier when he was vice president. He went to Russia and visited and actually performed quite well in a televised debate with Russian leader Nikita Khrushchev. But in this case, he did not come off looking too good. But on the second quote, it's going to bring in the layer of radio. So if you didn't see the debate, what'd you hear of it? Bob Dole, by the way, ran for president, did not win. "I was listening to it on the radio coming into Lincoln, Kansas, and I thought Nixon was doing a great job. Then I saw the TV clips the next morning, and he didn't look well. Kennedy was young and articulate and wiped him out." All right, so is this a change or is this a continuity? According to the class last year, the media was it was kind of a change, not a massive change. Let's see why they said that. It was a change since TV allowed political competition to be viewed. This is more descriptive. Oh, and they have a pretty good source of evidence. They're pointing to political communication with FDR and his fireside chats. It was all done by the radio. Yeah, I think that's a good example there. Maybe even go super far back, right? The election 1800, Adams and Jefferson, and the brutal way they treated each other. This clearly, from the source standpoint, doesn't bring up maybe animosity between the two, but yeah, definitely a change in maybe debate stylings that we see continue to this day. All right, next topic.